Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be retelling the story of Hansel and Gretel. But in this case, I'll be using the Brothers Grimm version. So um, this will be more of a scarier version of this story. Um, this story begins with a great famine in the land. Um, and we come to find that the woodcutter and his family are starving. So, due to this starvation that their family is facing, his wife suggests to take her stepchildren into the woods to leave them there. So while she's conspiring with her husband to um, kind of take them into the woods and proceed with this act of, um, in a sense, violence towards their children, Hansel and Gretel hear them. So it does take the husband a little while to be convinced of this, but after some hesitation, he does agree and they leave the kids in the woods. Due to Hansel and Gretel hearing about this plan, they're able to return home thanks to the stones that Hansel was using to mark their pathway. However, at the next attempt, Hansel can't load his pockets with enough stones because the doors were locked. So instead of stones, he uses the breadcrumbs. But again, with the breadcrumbs, they run into a problem with that as well. So with these breadcrumbs, the birds have eaten them, and so the woodcutter and his wife did succeed in this attempt, and the children were, in a sense, lost in the woods. So during their journey and time in the woods, they find a mysterious hut made of sweets. And you may have seen gingerbread and different things in cartoon interpretations of this folktale. So within this hut made of sweets, there's a witch that lives inside, and in this term we'll call her a cannibal. So she is a cannibal and does intend to eat these children. However, due to their famine that they were facing, they are very skinny. So she decides that she needs to feed Hansel first and ends up in the meantime using Gretel as a servant in a sense around the house. And for some time, the children do manage to postpone their doom in this sense. So the witch does have very poor sight, and so she's checking Hansel's fat so as he's no longer so he's trying to prove that he's not gaining much weight. So he, instead of using his finger, because she is feeding him a lot and he is gaining the weight, he's using a chicken bone. So in using this chicken bone, he finds that it does postpone his death for a few more days. So as the time comes near and near, the witch decides to prepare an oven and plans to bake both of the children. Fortunately, Gretel's able to outsmart her and ends up throwing the witch in the oven where she's burned instead of them. So once this has been decided, the kids do search the hut. They find gold, jewelry, and other valuables, and with help of some of the birds, they safely return home. So while these children were away, their stepmother did pass away. So their stepmother died, and in the meantime, throughout the rest of their lives, they did live with their father, who was very regretful of this. And um, the story does say that they do live happily ever after. So I just wanted to read something really quickly about the history about Hansel and Gretel. So it says, although Grimm's version is the most popular one, it is far from being the first. So there have been multiple interpretations of this book, and at the time, child abandonment and extreme poverty were not too rare. So this was something that was very heavily um, symbolic and thematic throughout the rest of the Grimm brothers' tales and just the time in general. So this was my interpretation slash reading of Hansel and Gretel. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. Bye.